Namaste. I'm divorced, alone, and happy. I repeat, I'm divorced, alone, and happy. I'm Vani Kabir, the modern Sufi. I got married at 19 and divorced at 28. I was divorced on the same day that I got married on, just with an age gap of 8 years, and with a son who was 4.5 years old. From the country that I come from, divorce is a word that is not even spoken, let aside be used as a decision. I want to narrate a small story here from a major epic, which is also a Veda in our country, called the Mahabharata. And the story is of a lead protagonist woman who is also known as a goddess, Draupadi. Draupadi was a woman who was married to 5 men called the Pandavas, who were the kings. Those Pandavas were at a war with the 100 evil stepbrothers known as the Kauravas. They lost the battle, and they had a bet with the Kauravas that if you lose the battle, you'll have your wife. The wife was lost to the Kauravas too. Being evil, they decided to bring her in the court of law, which was full of men, and disrobe her. They started to pull the sari that she was wearing, the one that I'm wearing right now. They started to pull on the sari, and she was feeling shame, disrespect. She was looking at her husbands, who couldn't help her at all. And then she sought help from Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna helped her. But with all that help also, she couldn't get the respect that she lost in that room. Now Draupadi was a very fiery one. She was the one who had a mind of her own. She was the one who made men uncomfortable back then with her intelligence. She was the one who did not take injustice that was done to her, and she cursed the kingdom which led to the downfall of it. There's a quote that goes after her. What matters most is how you walk through the fire. What matters most is how you walk through the fire. And this quote somehow stayed along with me for a really long time, until the day that I was getting divorced. Divorce in India is hellish, and I think it is hellish in all parts of the world. And I also choose to believe that people who get divorced or come out of broken relationships are the ones who are born out of fire again, just like Bhakti herself. They rise from a loss of a relationship. They try to build their own image again in the same society that they've been living in for these many number of years. Divorce all over has the same effects on people. They share the same horror, they share the same stories, they share the same incapacity of bringing up children all by themselves. I bring you to the day of my divorce. The day I got divorced, I was bidding adieu to a relationship that I thought is my happily ever after. I didn't choose to get divorced, but there was no choice that was left for me. I knew that the relationship that I was in is beyond repair. I could not have done anything further to save that relationship and live with it for the rest of my life. Today, in this talk and on this stage, I would like to bring up 3 pressing issues. These 3 pressing issues are the ones that are going to change the society and the way that we look at people who come from broken families, broken relationships, and divorces. 1. Divorce is not a community decision. The society does not decide whether you want to divorce a person or whether you want to marry a person. It is an individual decision. People fail to understand because we are all living in bonded relationships and bonded families, especially back in my country. They think that, they have a say in a marriage, so they also conveniently assume that they have a say in divorce, but that's not the case. It is an individual's choice and decision when they feel that they're up to here and they don't need to survive that relationship anymore. 2. A very large population in this world blames the woman for the divorce. One of the reasons that I had suffered so much after my divorce was because of the fact that they believed that I wasn't as dutiful, I wasn't as loving, I wasn't as caring and giving in my marriage, and the relationship had to break. I disagree to this, and I want to propagate the fact that in every relationship, there are two people who make or break a relationship. It is never one person. On the outset of it, we might just feel that it is only one person and their fault, and this is why the relationship is breaking. But if you dig deep inside yourself, you will see that it is always two people who are to be sharing the blame. At the same time, it is always two people who decide that opening a beer bottle together is not a shared hobby and we need to put in more into our relationships. And those are the people who make it work. 3. Single parents, divorced or not, have the choice and the freedom to find love again and remarry. From the country that I come from, remarriage is out of question. Even if it is not out of question, they think that a divorced person should only get married to a divorced person because you have an equal status, which I completely disagree with. I think if love has to find you, if love has to be in your life, it will find a way, and it is not going to be biased on the issues of whether I'm divorced and whether I have a child, or whether you are divorced and you have a child. When you sign those papers of divorce, you did not sign a pact saying that I am never going to be happy after that. I am always going to be remorseful. I am always going to blame my ex for making my life so miserable. You never signed any of it. I strongly advocate the fact that marriage and divorce are both just decisions. You get married to a person in lieu of living a better life. You think, oh, that guy is wonderful. He's been nice to me all this while. I'm going to get married to him and have a beautiful, healthy life after this. And for some reason, that doesn't turn out to be the case. And you decide to exit from that relationship in lieu of living a better life. Then why is it that one decision is celebrated and the other is stigmatized? Bringing you back to my marriage, which seemed like a deck of cards to me, it all started with hearts and diamonds, and by the end of it, I wished I had a club and spade. I thought when I signed those papers, the worst was over. I came out of a bad relationship, I have my son, I'm sorted, I don't have to think too much about my life, I'm going to go from here, settle somewhere else, start again. I had all those plans, and everything jeopardized. Because I was vulnerable. Because I was vulnerable, I went into some really uncaring and demanding relationships that sucked out every ounce of faith, love, and self-belief that I had in me. I was accustomed to a lot of relationships, one after the other, and I was seeing myself being drained by those emotional vampires and thinking that, am I doing the right thing? And then the society comes in and they tell me, hey you're a woman too shallow because you have so many relationships. That's not how a good woman is. But I ask you, is there anyone who's sitting in this room who has walked into a bad relationship knowingly? Do you ever know that you're going to walk into a bad relationship? Do you ever know that the relationship that you're walking into is going to give you happiness or sorrow? I ask you that people who are divorced or who've come back from broken relationships, do they not have right to find love again? And if they can't find love again in one relationship, and if they're going in multiple relationships to find that love, that validation, to cure their vulnerability, is that not something that they ought to do? I have a short poem written in those miserable times that I was in, and I hope it makes sense to all of you too. They told me that now I'm a single mother and made it sound like slicky slime. But from the bad guy up that I come from, I was single all the time. They told me now my life has changed and a good mother I should prove to be. I should only live for my son and nothing else should matter to me. If I laughed too much, they told me I had no remorse. If I laughed too much, they told me I had no remorse. If I dressed up for a party, they reminded me I'm divorced. If I met other men, I was rated a woman too shallow. They were only supportive when I was grieving in dark gallows. And one fine day, I questioned myself why, and the 1% devil in me did comply. Living through this madness, I went into a long depression of 1.5 years. When I was divorced, I was 82 kgs, and when I was divorced for 1.5 years, I was 48. This was an alarming sign for my family, and I was shipped to my brother in San Diego, who's sitting up there, and he knows he's my superhero. I was shipped to him, and he sort of helped me cure the things that I couldn't possibly think that I have in me. He planned a short trip to LA. I figured out that I have a few people that I know in LA, through Facebook, of course. I wrote to them that I'm coming to LA and I would like to meet you for a day. 4 of them agreed. I met them, and I owe my life to those 4 people that I met. Because they didn't look at me like I was surviving something. They didn't look at me that I'd come out of a trauma. They didn't take my weight loss as a syndrome or as a part of a disease. They looked at me for the person I am. They looked at me like I was a warrior who was trying to protect the territory of her dreams. They looked at me as a girl who has a lot of talent pool, which is not going anywhere and it's just sitting in her system. I packed all this goodness and I came back to India to be more vulnerable and fall into some more crazy relationships that took everything else out of me again. And one night I had a breakdown. With all this emotional trauma that I was going through, I had a serious mental breakdown. I was 3 bottles down with wine, sitting at the doorstep of my balcony, looking at the moon, having a million conversations with the moon. And as the dawn dawned upon me, my eyes went to a corner of my house where there was a diary which was collecting dust. And in that moment, I realized that I was always a writer. I was a writer at the age of 8. My first poem got published when I was 8 years old in the school magazine. And I've always been writing. I dusted myself, got up, took that diary, started penning everything that itched inside my heart. Everything that I ever thought is going to be useful for anybody else outside who is on the edge of to divorce or not to divorce, to break a relationship or to not break a relationship. I put it out in social media, and in no time I had over 100,000 followers following me from all parts of the world. I went on to talks. I write blogs about single parenting, busting myths about single parenting, being happily divorced. I write about love, passion, creativity, creative living, and so much more. And thus was born Vani Kabir, the modern Sufi, because I handle the modern day issues with a little Sufi touch. My journey till here has not been easy. My journey from Vani Bhamra to Vani Pandya to Vani Kabir and now Vani Kabir, the modern Sufi, has absolutely not been easy, and I know it won't be easy from here on as well. But what's the point if it comes easy? You're allowed to choose your ammunition to the war that you're going to. I chose my words as my ammunition. I tell all of you that only if you accept your decision, they will accept you. Only if you value yourself, they will value you. And only when you say, so what, will they know that you finally made peace with your own life. I have 3 points that I want you guys to take away from my talk today. 1. Alone is more than enough. Alone is more than enough for everything that you want to do in your life. You want to pursue a career, you want to take up a hobby, you want to be passionate about something, you want to be a rapper, you want to shave your head off, you want to learn a new language, you want to go on a solo trip. Alone is more than enough. Alone is enough to heal your heart. Alone is enough to speak to your heart and tell them that it's okay to be uncomfortable. Alone is more than enough. 2. Being divorced and being happy is possible. Let me assure you that I'm a living example, a living proof that there is happiness after heartbreak. Divorce and happiness are not antonyms to each other. When you go onto Google and say divorce, antonym, it doesn't show unhappy. It doesn't show. When you go onto Google and say happiness and antonyms, divorce doesn't come up, right? Let's go by Google, if not by anything else. 3. This is an urge that I make to all of you. Learn to love yourself. Learn to love yourself, because most of the times there will be nobody else loving you. I learned to love myself from all the people who cared to love me less. Learn to love yourself. We all talk about this thing that I got divorced and my ex did this and I did this, and there's a whole blame gaming session that has happened around it. But why do we need to do so? If you actually look at it, you've saved yourself from a relationship, you've saved your ex from a relationship that was not meant to be conducive and happy for a happy environment. You were going to live in a sad relationship, raising sad children, and those sad children raising further sad children. Why would you want to do that? So there's a small rhyme that I have in mind, and I've twisted it a little bit, and I would really request if all of you would know that rhyme to sing along. And it goes like this. If you're happy and you know it, thank your ex. If you're happy and you know it, thank your ex. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, thank your ex. Thank you.